They say that every masterpiece is followed by cheap copies. When we think of American superheroes, what companies come to mind? Most people would probably say either Marvel or DC, seeing as they have been the most popular for decades now. However, in the last few years there have been an influx of new superhero shows separate from these big studios. This would include shows like Invincible, Umbrella Academy, and The Boys. Now, while I wouldn't necessarily call these shows masterpieces, I would say that they are currently the fan favorites when it comes to superhero shows outside of Marvel and DC. With these types of shows gaining more and more popularity, it was only a matter of time before other companies would try and capitalize off this. Now, while there isn't any inherent problem with more competition, it's obvious that some companies are trying to make a quick buck off a niche fan base rather than focusing on making an actually good show.
Shush, shush. He's coming.
So, Netflix really made a knockoff of The Boys, and it's about as bad as you would expect. Now, the name of this show is called Jupiter's Legacy, and I won't say it's the worst show in the world, but if we're keeping it all the way honest, the show is trash. I mean, bro, I'm just keeping it a band. The storyline, trash. The characters, trash. The fighting, trash. The special effects, trash. I mean, don't get me wrong, the show is still watchable, barely, but it's honestly not that good. I also want to point out that it cost over $300 million to make this show. $300 million! This gotta be cap. Either that or the producers of this show have the worst possible ideas of what to spend their budget on. I'm honestly willing to bet they put like $1 million in the project, then ran off with the rest. I mean, even shows on CW look better than this. But I ain't gonna lie, for $300 million, I'm doing the same thing. Say, nah, I wouldn't do that. When it comes to separating these shows, Umbrella Academy definitely stands out from the rest, mainly because all three of the other shows have a DC-like element towards them. Things like a fake Justice League or similar superpowers, rip-off costumes. Umbrella Academy is more unique with quite a different storyline from the rest, as well as having more unique powers and dynamics. When it comes to the other three, at first they kind of resemble a Justice League show where there are teams of superheroes living amongst the human population. The difference with these shows is that they usually try and make them more realistic. This includes things like real-life physics, social media presence, corrupt higher-ups, and human-like personality flaws in heroes. Things such as narcissism, racism, and infidelity. Invincible and The Boys also explore the concept of an all-powerful Superman type being turning his back on the world and becoming evil, so they're very similar in that regard. Although Invincible does stand out from the rest on the simple basis that it is the only one of these shows that is animated. Finally, let's get into Jupiter's Legacy. First off, this show feels like it was only put out by Netflix as a way to compete with Amazon Prime in this new superhero department after seeing The Boys and Invincible get so much traction. However, it seems that they didn't put any effort into trying to make this into a good show. The characters are forgettable, the costumes are horrible, and the storyline is absolute dog shit.
Dookie.
So I'm not going to get too deep into the storyline because even calling it mid is being generous.
You're average looking at best.
So instead, I'm just going to give my quick synopsis telling you guys the important stuff. First off, the show is split into two timelines representing the past and the present. The past storyline shows the characters' journey to obtaining their powers, and the present represents the effects of integrating superheroes into society. However, these storylines are being told at the exact same time as each other, which I'm personally not a fan of, mainly because I feel like dedicating this much showtime to flashbacks usually takes away from the main story, which in this case I think that it does. Not to mention, the characters in the past feel much more multi-layered and interesting compared to their superhero counterparts. This is wasted though because the plot of the past is way less interesting than the plot of the present, and this pretty much kills the show's momentum. The past story follows these three characters, Sheldon, Walter, and George, who are all born into rich families. However, their life would be permanently changed after losing their companies as a result of the stock market crashing. After this, Sheldon's father would decide to kill himself right in front of him. In turn, this leads to Sheldon having hallucinations, which basically tell him he needs to make a specific team and go out to this random location in the middle of the sea. Now, the show never really explains exactly what caused these visions or even how or why they exist in the show. They're also not shown in the present part of the story, so this element is kind of just randomly thrown in for the show's convenience. Anyways, they do this and make it to the island where after a series of difficult challenges, they get their powers. After getting their powers, Sheldon creates a code, which is that as superheroes, they don't kill and they don't govern under any circumstances. In the present time, the storyline is a bit better, but the characters get heavily dumbed down into simple TV tropes. The main plot has to do with criminals being high on the rise, a lot of superheroes dying, and Sheldon begging everyone to still believe in the stupid code. Now you're probably wondering why he's nicknamed the Code. Well, it's because it's the only thing that he talks about. I mean, the whole show he's just...
The code. The code is the code. The code even more. The country. The code.
He cares about the code more than anything else, including his own family. So much so that he's shown that he's willing to sacrifice his life, his friends, and even his own kids for the sake of upholding this code. Like, he literally gets mad at his own son for saving his family's lives at the expense of breaking the code.
What is wrong with you? We don't kill, ever!
He was gonna detonate, Dad. He was gonna take you out in half the state.
Then you disable his systems, you send him into space. There's a million things you could have done. You took the easy way out.
Did that look easy to you?
Not to mention that right before this, 3 of his son's best friends just got clapped by this Thanos ripoff, who was ready to send the whole country to meet their demise. But this isn't even the worst part, because at the end of the season, Sheldon and his son are put in a reverse situation, and Sheldon is really willing to let his son die.
Today we're all gonna learn exactly how much you value your precious code. Here's my jugular, Samson. Clear shot for your eyes. Your son took a life to save you and Gracie. Can you do the same to save your boy? Or does the code come first? Even before family? Wow, Shelley. Your kid didn't hesitate to save you and good old Mom. I don't think he's picking you, kid. Nice knowing ya.
Literally someone else had to come and save him, and then Sheldon has the nerve to say this.
I wasn't gonna let you die.
Stop the cap.
Plus his brain is always in hero mode to the point where he can't even remember the real names of his superhero friends.
Just give him some time. You know, he was tight with Barry since junior high. Barry Bishop. Brandon's the godfather to his little girls.
Oh, yeah, tectonic.
Yeah, so Sheldon is definitely up there with Goku and Jing for worst fathers on TV. Hell, he even gives Shao Tucker a run for his money.
Edward. Big brother Ed. Daddy's hurting. Daddy hurts. No, Daddy.
You poor creature.
On second thought, I think Shao got that award in the bag, I ain't gonna lie. The son is the parents' favorite, and this is because although he's the weaker of the two kids, he's more obedient. You know, follows the rules, but gets his ass beat a lot. This was until he broke the rules for the first time by killing the clone of Black Star to save his family. After facing the ridicule by his father for doing this, he spends the whole show defending why what he did was right. Because had he not done this, nobody would even be alive to have this argument.
My friends were dead. I had to make a choice between Black Star and you. Dad! I chose you, Dad. And I choose you every time. Wouldn't you do the same?
No.
This idea is even reinforced by the story, as trying to follow the code always leads to people getting seriously injured or even killed. But at the end of the show, he just randomly decides to put his faith in the code for literally no reason other than his father's approval, even though it almost cost him his life. It's like they just took all the character development he was making throughout the show and just threw it away in the end. Also, he's really a boring character to follow, as he doesn't have much of a personality or expression, and the whole time he just has this confused look on his face that almost looks robotic.
You know what? You're just jealous that he picked me instead of you.
I'm not jealous, Brandon. I am sorry. You think you have to carry 120 years of his bullshit so Daddy will love you again. You don't.
Chloe's pretty much the polar opposite of her brother. She's the one with potential but wasted because she goes against everything her parents want. She decides to become a model instead of using her powers to actually help people. She also uses her bad upbringing as an excuse to be intentionally rude and unlikable, as well as being irresponsible and abusive with substances. Not to mention the cringe.
You want to keep the rest of those teeth? Hmm? Back off, Sierra. I don't have friends. Because I'm an asshole. That's what all of you really think, right? Photographer was a real asshole.
Language.
Sorry, he was a real anus.
However, I will say that she is definitely the most interesting character in her family. Her having a different ideology from everybody else is what makes the viewer get more invested into her character. Unfortunately, she doesn't do much the whole show outside of assisting with the side part of the story, which ultimately doesn't do anything for the plot.
My house, my rules, my code. I didn't ask to be your daughter, and I sure as shit didn't ask for your gifts.
Those gifts are not for you, Chloe. Those gifts are meant for people who are less fortunate than you.
Everyone's more fortunate than me, because they don't have you as their dad. Chloe.
What the hell?
In the show, Grace's character doesn't really do much. Even though she gets a lot of screen time, she really only acts as a sidekick for Sheldon. It feels like her only purpose is to only either agree with him or to point out to the audience how bad of a husband slash father he is. She herself knows that she doesn't truly believe in the code, but she still preaches it to the younger heroes. And yeah, some people could say, well, she's just being a supportive wife who will stand by her husband's beliefs no matter what. But I disagree. In reality, she's just consciously enabling his delusions that she's witnessed the repercussions of firsthand. Also, all their fights are mid. Walt. Walter is the character in the show that is shown to be unlikable, but they constantly try and make us feel bad for him. In the flashback scene, Walter is shown to almost always disagree with Sheldon, but regardless of Walt being older, everybody always agrees with Sheldon. This would cause him to develop an inferiority complex, which would soon turn to hatred when people not listening to him would inevitably cause the loss of their company as well as the death of their father. In the future, Walt seems to accept his role as number 2 for the majority of the show, until the end when we find out that bro was really a snake the whole time. He was the one who cloned Black Star and framed George so he could take control of the Hero Union. He's so obsessed with power that he literally blitzed his daughter just to get her out the way. And the problem with this is it kinda comes out of nowhere. I mean, before this, Walt was shown to not have any type of backbone at all. There's no character development. He just goes from never standing up for himself straight to willing to kill his own family for power. If the story would have had Walt display some of these characteristics before the change, then it would make sense. But the personality change literally comes out of nowhere. It also makes a lot of his earlier actions in the show not make any sense. Like when they fought the fake Black Star, if he was the one who created the clone, why is he serious when fighting inside his brain where no one can see them? And why did he risk his life on a whim that the sun would break the code to kill Black Star? Because if he was wrong, they'd all be dead. And it also means he simulated a fake fight with George while inside of the clone's brain for literally no reason, because no one else can see what he does within somebody's brain.
This country is spiraling out of control. Thanks to Sheldon's laissez-faire attitude. And there's no one else to blame.
I realize it's just a lot of hating ass nigga in this world, and I'm one of them.
When I hold back a tear to make a smile appear, I'm only painting the clouds with sunshine.
Now let's talk about George. George is probably the only likable character in the show. He's shown to be a really good friend to Sheldon as well as a generous boss to his workers. He's also a comedic relief as well as the best dressed compared to everybody else. Now his character isn't without bad qualities, but that's what helps balance him out. Unfortunately, he's only shown in flashbacks, so he only gets half the screen time as everybody else. However, this actually works out for him, specifically seeing how all the characters went from being interesting, diverse characters in the past to being boring one-track mindset tropes in the present. With him only appearing in the past, he avoids a lot of the same criticism a lot of other characters face.
Because it is all about the attitude, chum. Chin up, eyes forward. Paint the clouds with sunshine.
There are a few other characters, but they're not important. Even the main character can't even remember who they are.
I ran into Jana out on patrol. Ghostby.
Oh, right. That's Chloe's friend. She's a good kid. How's she doing?
She's dead.
Extras.
But in all seriousness, it's sad because the show actually had potential to be something great, but instead it falls short in every possible way. Not to mention all the inconsistencies the show has. Like when they show the cast getting their powers, there was only 6 of them in the world. Then they had kids who inherited those powers. But where do all these random villains just get their powers from? It's highly unlikely that they went through the same long process, which was seen as the only way to get powers in the show. This is a writing error that the show tries to get you to ignore and just accept what they're giving you. This whole season feels like it's just a setup for season 2, and maybe they have a chance to do something better this time around. Or maybe not. Let this be a lesson. For people to want a season 2, season 1 has to actually be good first.
That's a life lesson, yeah. You my wife, but you can't bring your baggage in here.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also share the vid with a friend. Till next time.
Later, Nickel.